What's up, y'all? Alvin here. This is question and answer episode 8. And I gotta say, people are serious about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I tell the good jokes. All right, so once again, got a ton of great questions. I'm going to answer as many of them as I can, but got way too many. Not going to be able to answer them all, but I want to thank each and every one of you for asking these questions. Some of these are pretty entertaining, and I'm getting a chuckle out of it. And like I said, I'm really having a good time making these videos. All right, so I want to start with one from last week that I meant to answer and I forgot because I got so many questions. And that comes from Arctic Char LF. And Arctic Char LF wants to know, have I ever fished with @huge fly fisherman? He often recommends your channel. Thanks for the content. Arctic Char LF, thanks for the question. I have not fished with Ben, but we're gonna fish together. Hopefully in 2022. We've been trying to get together and do some fishing, either out west where he is, or maybe I can get him down here to do some bass fishing or some redfish fishing. But yeah, keep your eyes out for that in 2022. And definitely a shout out to Ben @huge fly fisherman, because you know I'm a huge fly fisherman too. All right, moving along. I got a ton of questions on the YouTube channel, and I think I'll start with those. All right, so first up is Leonardo Diaz. Leonardo wants to know, is it possible to row a raft and fish at the same time while you're floating down a river by yourself? If so, what would be the best technique to maximize your fishing while floating downriver? It is possible to fish and float, but it can be extremely frustrating. And if you're in moving water, fast moving water, it can be dangerous. But slower moving water, slower sections of river, I've done it a lot of times. The trick is setting yourself up on a drift and kind of trying to minimize things that your line is going to get tangled on while you're trying to cast out of the boat. The other thing is, if it's windy, just don't go. Every time I go out by myself and it's windy, I know better. And I almost always end up getting frustrated because the boat's spinning around. So that adds an extra element to trying to cast and drift and control the boat at the same time. Basically, what you want to do is find a slow moving section of the river, somewhere you can kind of set the boat up on a drift. Then just plan on not really being able to make more than a couple of casts or a couple of drifts at a time before the boat moves. It's similar to trying to fish out of a kayak. A lot of people do it, so it can be done. But the boat definitely can be a little bit more difficult to handle, with oars and all that. But, it's better than not fishing, right? Good luck out there, man. Thanks for the question. Okay, so Rip'em Lip'em wants to know if I've ever tried using braid for a butt section and then attaching mono to the braid after that to build up the rest of the leader. And I haven't ever tried it. He's concerned about the braid cutting into the fly line. I actually would be more concerned about the fact that the braid is usually pretty limp and it's not going to really transfer much energy. So especially for bass fishing, when you want to transfer that energy to turn over those bigger flies, I would think that the braid would not be the best because it's going to just kind of collapse on itself when that loop hits the braid. So I don't know, give it a try. If it works, let me know, but I don't think it would be the best way to go. Okay, lots of great questions. Here's another good one. Brian Booma wants to know, when a client contacts a guide to book a trip, how long should they wait without hearing back before following up with the guide? It's going to depend guide to guide. If you know the guide and he's on the water every day, he or she is on the water every day, and you really want to fish with them, then, I would say give them a few days. When I was booking myself before we had the guide service, I was pretty happy if I got back to somebody like within 2 days. Now, that is one of the advantages I have now. That's also an advantage of going with a guide service. Usually they're going to get back to you within the day and get everything tied up so that you know that the trip is happening or not happening. It is tough as an individual guide to be on the water all day, come home, answer emails, return phone calls. So if you know this guide, I'd say give them a couple days. Now, if it's a new guide, somebody that you've never fished with or an area you haven't ever fished before, or just you need to make plans, I'd say maybe send them an email a day later, maybe 2 days at the most. Usually you can get a response within a day if you go with a guide service or, a reputable guide, somebody who's been at it a while. They're usually pretty good about returning emails, returning phone calls. That's why they're still in business. Now, something else you might want to also consider before you make the initial contact with the guide is to actually look the guide up, do a little research on this particular guide. You would be shocked at some of the things that you might not know about your guide that you can find out in just a quick Google search. Don't have to do a full background check, but that wouldn't hurt if you got the ability. All right, thanks for the question. Good luck out there. Sari Chow wants to know, if you could only fish top water or subsurface, what would you choose? No problem, hands down, top water. That's a no-brainer for me. Thanks for the question. That's assuming that top water was always going to work. Obviously, it doesn't always work, so sometimes you got to go subsurface. But if I could catch fish and I get to choose, it would definitely be top water. All right, Pete, I'm going to apologize in advance if I get your last name wrong, but Pete von Schondorf, I hope I got that right. Pete wants to know, when purchasing fishing gear, where should you spend most of your money? Fly line, rod, reel, or guide fees? Now, I would say the rod, I would spend the most money on that, but that's pretty easy to do because the rod's usually the most expensive part of your gear. In reality, the rod is going to make the most difference when it comes to casting, and then second would be the fly line. Now, if you were just getting into it, or if you were trying to learn to do a new type of fishing, you might want to go ahead and spend that money on a guide. If you do, you let the guide know, hey, I'm new to this, or I'm trying to learn something new, and you will definitely learn quite a bit, and that could make more of a difference in your ability to catch fish than getting a new rod. All right, so EB wants me to talk about fishing in Michigan, and I asked a follow-up question to him, was like, specifically, what do you want to know? He said anything. Well, I'm going to tell you, I was shocked at how much awesome river fishing there is in Michigan. We, of course, know about the Great Lakes and all that stuff, but I was amazed at how much moving water there was in Michigan to fish for smallmouth. If you're heading that way, look up Schultz Outfitters. Mike Schultz and that crew are amazing. We fish with them. I'd highly recommend them. Hopefully, I'm going to get back and fish with them again in 2022. Thanks for the question. All right, so let's jump over to Instagram and answer some of these peanut butter and jelly questions. So many questions about peanut butter and jelly. That is just, I had no idea it was such a interesting subject. Here goes. A few of the questions about peanut butter and jelly. Okay, so Discount Flies wants to know how I manage the jelly seepage without putting peanut butter on both slices of bread. Now, this is something, believe it or not, that I didn't know anything about, and that was putting peanut butter on both pieces of bread to sort of insulate the bread from the jelly. I have never heard of that. I've never tried it, but I'm gonna try it. So makes sense, you know, the peanut butter is a good barrier, keeps the jelly from seeping into the bread. Although someone else did comment that they really like the way that the peanut butter kind of soaked into the bread. I've had the same thing happen with a peanut butter and honey sandwich. Had several people ask, you know, why'd you only put jelly on one side? Now, this goes back to when I was a kid. My dad used to do this thing where he would ask us like, hey, do you want your peanut butter on top or bottom? And my sister and I would always have a preference. You know, we'd say, oh yeah, I want my peanut butter on top, or I want my jelly on top. And my dad would always make them opposite of what we asked for. And then he would bring the sandwiches to us, and, you know, I'd say, oh, I wanted my peanut butter on top. You got the jelly on top. And my dad would take the sandwich, hold it in front of my face, and do this. And we were just amazed. It was like the coolest trick. So yeah, I always put my peanut butter on one side, my jelly on the other side. Thanks for the question. Oh, and before we get off of the peanut butter and jelly subject, I am a fan of creamy peanut butter. I'll eat crunchy, but it is definitely not my choice. Oh, and jelly, jam, I really don't care. I would have to say I prefer jam, but jelly is just as good for me. All right, I hope that answers all of the peanut butter and jelly questions floating around out there. And thanks everybody for being so interested in peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. General Copeland wants to know, what is my favorite Texas river to fish and what is my favorite fish to target? And I would say hands down, Colorado River, my home water, and Guadalupe bass, our state fish. That's an easy one. Thanks for the question. Chase Scarborough wants to know if it's okay to practice casting on the grass or will that damage the fly line? The best is always going to be casting on the water. And I have heard that grass does put like microscopic slices into the plastic coating of the fly line, and that's maybe not the best thing to do. Definitely don't want to cast them on concrete. But I think casting on grass on occasion is not going to destroy your fly line. But if you can, do it on the water. Practicing anytime is always better than not practicing. Thanks for the question. All right, as usual, the video's running long. We'll just have to save some of these questions for next week. I'm gonna answer one more, and that is from Charlie. I hope I'm saying that right. Charlie wants to know, do you drink beer while you're fishing or you wait till afterwards? All right, so if I'm guiding, definitely not going to be drinking. You know, you can't drink on the job. If I'm fishing, almost always I'll wait until I'm done. A lot of times I like to have a cold beverage in the cooler, one of my choice, drink that in the parking lot at the end of the day just to kind of cap off a great day. Although I have to admit, it has been several months since I have drank an alcoholic beverage. It's true. I love my scotch. I love my real tasty IPAs, but I've been taking a break from all that and drinking nothing but fake beers. So yeah, I do drink a fake beer at the end of the day. And since they don't have any booze in them, I'll occasionally drink one when I'm fishing. But in reality, if I'm fishing, I'm usually too focused on my fishing to do much drinking. I have a hard time even making myself drink enough water to get through the day. So I'm definitely going to wait until the end of the day to have my celebratory beverage, whether it's alcoholic or not. Anyway, thanks for the question. Thanks for watching these videos. Thanks for asking me these questions. It has just been a ton of fun doing this. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel, you know, all that YouTube stuff. I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. And in the meantime, good luck on the water.